Welcome to episode 2 of Talking Sports. Like I said in the previous video, if you haven't watched it, today, or I should say tonight, I will be going over the defending World Series champions, the Chicago Cubs, winning their first World Series in 108 years. And yes, I said that right, 108 years. So I'm going to go back to when I was there, and I watched pretty much every game of the World Series, of that World Series anyways. And when Cleveland was up 3-1, I thought, oh, fuck, this is the fucking curse of the Billy Goat getting to us, We're done. Well, the Cubs were able to come back from a 3-1 deficit. And let me tell you, every day when there is a game, after the Indians won their third game, I was nervous as fuck from that point on. So for game 5, 6, 7, I was a nervous fucking wreck. I was so fucking nervous because this is the first time that the Cubs have gone to the World Series in 71 years. And the first time, and we got this far, we didn't want to get all this far just to fuck up, And the Cubs have gone through a lot of shit over the years. And so I remember Game 7 of the World Series, and I was at a concert for Game 7. Out of all the days, like there are in the year, I had to go to a concert the day of Game 7 of the World Series. And luckily, I was at the Moda Center, and every TV, every bar that was there was, showing the game. So every chance I got, I'm like, oh, what's the score? What's the score? And I even checked my phone like every 5 minutes. I was like, what's the score in the Cubs game? What's the score in the Cubs game? And I was a nervous fucking wreck, and I couldn't really even enjoy the show because I had the game on my mind, I'm just like, oh, please do not fucking let this be a loss, please do not let us lose this. And it was fucking hard. Like, I had it on my mind for a long fucking time, and it's hard for me to enjoy the show. And I'm like, and it was another reason why I hated that the World Series, Game 7 of the World Series, was on the same night my concert was. And I'm just like, frustrated. I'm like, oh, I can't even enjoy the game with this shit, So I just had it in my head and just, So finally, I was at the Five Finger Death Punch Shinedown show, and, Shinedown just got done playing, and they were at an intermission, they were taking all their shit down and setting up Five Finger Death Punch's, drums and tuning their guitars and testing them, doing sound checks, all that shit. So at that moment, sorry for the pause, but at that moment, I'm like, okay, I'm going to sneak away for a little bit to watch the game. And I get in, they had a bar down there, because I got good fucking seats. I was in the general audience and, section, and that was fucking awesome. And I thank my grandma for that, because that was a birthday present. So me and my friend, we went, and I mean, I just couldn't believe how far we were. But, I even tried to get as close as I could, but you know how fucking stubborn people are when it comes to front row. They will not budge. Like, you gotta get a fucking pepper spray or tear gas in there if you want to break up that crowd. But enough about that. Back to what I was saying. So my friend didn't want to stay for the last band, which was Five Finger Death Punch. So I snuck to the bar and I watched the rest of the game. And it was about, of course they went into extra innings, which fucking just frustrated me. I'm like, oh my God. We had the lead, and then Cleveland caught up to us, I should say. And, we went into extra innings, and it was just, again, sorry for the pause. I'm trying to figure out what the camera is. But I watched the last of the game, and I remember hearing my own heartbeat, where I'm sure people have saw movies where, there's a nervous situation and and then you start hearing the heartbeat. And that's where it was for me. I was starting to hear my own heartbeat. I'm like crossing my fingers. And then I can't remember whose player it was. I think Chris Bryant was the one that threw the ball. I don't know. I'll have to look it up again. But I would watch a lot of the Cubs games, but I'm not in the local area, and I'll get to that in a minute. But when I saw the throw to first base, everybody in the bar is just like, yeah, and I jumped like fucking 3 feet off the fucking ground. I was so fucking excited, and I just couldn't believe it. Like, I told myself, finally, I can die happy knowing that the Cubs won the World Series. And what just amazes me is that Back to the Future and Back to the Future Part 2, Marty McFly, Doc Brown, and his girlfriend Jennifer traveled to the year 2015, where the Cubs won the World Series against Miami. Now, two things. One, back when this movie was made, Miami didn't have a team until I think it was like 95, I think it was. So, but they weren't known as Miami. They were known as the Florida Marlins. It wasn't until 2012 that they became known as the Miami Marlins. Well, two, both the Marlins and the Cubs are in the National League, so it's physically impossible for those two teams to face each other in the World Series. The closest they'll get, of course, is the NLCS. So, yeah. And I don't even know if the Marlins made the postseason last year. I can't remember. But it amazes me that Back to the Future was only 1 year off. 1 year off. And just a lot of shit that has happened. But I'm glad the Cubs finally won. 108 years of frustration. And let me tell you, it is awesome to know that the Cubs finally won the World Series. You know, they hadn't, before 2016, they hadn't been to the World Series since 1945 when they lost to the Detroit Tigers. And now, if I'm right, that's when the whole curse of the Billy Goat started. And it just goes to show you, you know, and it just amazes me that all the games of 2016 were comeback games. The Cavaliers came back from a 3-1 deficit to defeat the Golden State Warriors, win Cleveland's first championship in 50 years, and also the Cavaliers winning their first NBA championship in franchise history. The Cubs do the same thing, come back from a 3-1 deficit to beat the Indians, to win their first World Series in 108 years. And the thing is, too, is that both the Cavaliers and Cubs had championship droughts. Well, the city of Cleveland, I should say, not the Cavaliers. But yeah, that's, you know, and then the Patriots coming back to defeat the Atlanta Falcons in Super Bowl 51. And let me tell you that I was happy. I was so fucking happy that, and going back to this, going back a little bit, my dad, you know, he liked all the Chicago teams, and the Cubs, the White Sox, the Bears, the Blackhawks. Yeah, the Blackhawks, Stanley Cup champions 2015. But we'll talk about hockey some other time. You know, not so much the Bulls. Of course, I'm from Oregon, so I'm going to be a Blazers fan. So, you know, I'm a Blazers fan. Then I am I've never been really a Bulls fan. But you get my drift. And what's ironic is my dad used to live in Oregon, Illinois. How ironic is that? So, you know, I almost fucking I remember doing a Snapchat and just saying, Dad, we did it. And I know he's smiling right now. And for those who don't know, my dad did pass away about 19 years ago. Almost 20 years ago. It'll be 20 years next year, 2018. So that was a big moment for me. And it's finally over. I still have the paper of the Cubs winning the World Series, which reminds me I need to get framed, because that is a moment of history. Now, as for all the Indians fans out there, all the fans of the Cleveland Indians, look at it this way. If my Cubs can win the World Series, then you guys damn sure can win it too. And I've been up to date on the standings, and the Indians are doing pretty good. So we might see it. I think I'm pretty sure I think I did have a dream that they won the World Series. I don't know if that's going to be true or not, but you know, a lot of this shit is, you know, deja fucking vu, you know. There's that deja vu theory where people have dreams, and these dreams are actually images of the future. So, who the fuck knows? But I'm just glad that I got to see the Cubs win the World Series. You know, we had a World Series drought from 1945 to 2016. Well, 15? No, I'll say 16, I guess. 16, yeah. You know, and then 2015, I thought that was going to be the fucking year. Imagine it, you know. Back to the Future was like accurate. That'd just be fucking creepy in a way. But, you know, we were swept by the Mets, but we came back to win it the next year, you know. And if anybody asks me my prediction, you know, I hope they do it again, but we'll have to see what goes on. You know, but I'm proud of my Cubs. They're number one in the NL Central right now, and I couldn't be more proud that, you know, that the Cubbies are doing good. And Joe Maddon has been one hell of a coach, and it seems like any guy that has a last name Madden is a good coach. But that's where I stand on it, and I just, you know, I'm just glad about it. So that's kind of my spiel on the whole Cubs winning the World Series. And let me tell you, I may have watched that video of the final out of Game 7 maybe about 30 times. So I hope one day I'll get to go to Wrigley Field and watch the Cubs play. That's like on my bucket list. So we'll see, you know, what happens. But in the meantime, I'm so glad that it's finally over. 108 years. Still can't fucking believe it. But anyways, guys, that's going to wrap up Talking Sports episode 2. On my next episode, I'm going to be talking about my personal opinions on WWE. So this would probably be a Talking Sports special called Talking Sports Entertainment. So I will be doing that in my next video about the current status of the WWE. Also, you know, just talking about my opinion. So that will be in the next episode of Talking Sports. Also, I'll be doing kind of a spin-off of Talking Sports of the Talking series called Talking Metal. And I'm a huge metal fan, so I will be talking about that as well. So anyways, guys, thank you for watching this video. I will be back tomorrow with Talking Sports episode 3, or Talking Sports Entertainment. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time. Vlad Mabus out.